Oh, sorry guys. The video started on its own. I don't know why. It's disobeying me. Anyway, guys, I just got a bit of inspiration from Leilani's vlog. On my Rambo video, she said, "You are David." I said, "I'm Brookbond." Now, I got a little funny story about Brookbond. It's what happened. Years ago, I just started a new job in a racing stables in Leicestershire, which is in the United Kingdom. And what happened, I was a bit early for the interview, so I thought, okay, I'll hang about in this country lane and lean over this fence and admire these cows in the field. Next minute, a Land Rover came screeching up and stopped. And he goes to me, "What are you doing looking at my cows?" I says, "I'm just admiring the cows." He said, "Yeah, well, don't worry the cows. Leave them alone." So I says, "Hey, get out of the car and I'll fight you." Get out of the car. And then he just drove off. So I looked at the watch and I thought, oh, okay, it's time to go down to the stables for the interview. So I went in there, knocked on the door, and someone says, "Come in." I thought, well, I recognise that voice. As I went in, the boss, the employer, looked at me and says, "You." And I looked at him and says, "You." He was the same man who told me off about looking at the cows. But anyway, I did get the job. And it's a funny thing because I got the job, and the next morning it's the first day that the law came out in England about wearing seatbelts. It was compulsory to wear a seatbelt. And me and this other lad, we started on the same day, and he was in a clapped out old car, he had, this guy. And it was started to snow in the morning, and he couldn't start the car. So he said, "Oh, can you push?" I thought, "Push? Oh, what's this?" I said, "I can't push your car in the snow on, we haven't even done a day's work yet." So I pushed the car and it got started and we jumped in. And halfway to the stables, a police car was flagging us down, pulled into the side. And he says, "Do you know today is the new law about seatbelts?" I said, "No, we didn't really know that. We're on our way to the racing stables. We're starting work." And he says to the guy who was driving, "Where's your license, driver's license, and your logbook?" And he turned around to me and said, "Oh, Dave, are you sitting on it?" I said, "No, it's not under me. I ain't got it." So he said, "Are you sure this is your car?" He says, "Yeah, of course it's my car." He says, "For all I know, you could have stolen it." And he says, "Where do you live?" And we didn't really know the address because it was our first day on the job. We weren't sure where we lived in the village, And he asked me, "Where do we live?" I said, "I don't know. You tell me where we live." And he goes, "Oh, I got a right pair here," the policeman thought. So I said, "Just a minute." He said, "Right, who's your employer then?" And I said, "Mr. Brookshaw." So he went to the front of the car looking at the registration plate, and then he's going on his little walkie-talkie. And he said, "Can you give me some information on Mr. Brookbond?" Over and out at his radio station. And I started laughing. He could look at me through the window screen. I was laughing. And I was putting my hands under my arms and making a monkey sign. And then he come back and he said, "Do you think you're a comedian?" I goes, "No." He says, "You said Brookbond. That's the advert on the TV with the monkeys, isn't it?" Uh, you know, that's the one with the advert on the TV. There's an advertisement where there's a monkey playing the piano. And the other monkey said, "Dad, do you know the piano's on my foot?" And he goes, "You own it, son, and I'll play it." Anyway, so I said, "No, no, officer." I said, you said Brookbond, and I was just doing a monkey sign because it's an advert on the TV. It was funny you got the employer's name wrong, and I was laughing. He goes, "What is your..." He says, "All right, you two." He says, "Get going." He says, "And if you come by here tonight, you're both nicked." He says, "I'll be in that lay-by." Anyway, that's all, guys. And I actually I didn't stay on the job long because it was in the middle of winter. We started the job and it was freezing. We had no curtains, big bay windows. And next day when we got to work, the boss says, "Oh, you're sitting in, lads, to your house." And I goes, "Yeah, well, all right, when you get the colour TV, and there will be made up." "Oh, no, if you want colour TV, you have to go into the town and rent one in the shop or buy one." I go, "What?" So, anyway, I didn't stay there too long anyway after that. So, but that's just one of my stories from my horse racing days when I worked with racehorses. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you understood it as well. Hope I'm not talking too fast. Okay. God bless everyone. This is Davy Boy signing out. Bye bye.